Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a serious deep dive today, really getting into the practical heart of ancient wisdom. We're going straight to the sources you shared on Roman Stoicism, looking at Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius.
Right. And the mission here, it's not just, a history lesson. It's about pulling out a toolkit,
Yeah.
a philosophical one you can actually use. These three Romans, the slave who became a teacher, the rich advisor, the emperor himself, they really wanted philosophy out in the open, practical.
Yeah, they weren't content being, what was the phrase? Pen and ink philosophers.
Exactly.
They saw it as a public guide, something for, well, for you listening, for daily life, for being part of society, not just debating in dusty rooms.
They were all about synthesis.
Yeah.
Ethics, physics, logic,
Yeah.
but geared towards something usable, something practical for the citizen.
And that Roman focus on application, that's key, isn't it? Stoicism as a practice, not just a set of beliefs.
Absolutely. So we're digging into how they saw the good life, not just for one person alone, but importantly within society. And also how they viewed this constant need for self-improvement, moral improvement, a lifelong thing.
Okay, so where do we start? The sources seem pretty blunt right from the get-go. The foundation seems to be about controlling yourself, specifically your judgment.
Yes, the absolute first step, and Epictetus hammers this home in the Enchiridion, is the dichotomy of control. That's almost stark. What's really up to us versus what isn't.
And the list of what is up to us, it's surprisingly small when you first hear it.
It really is.
Epictetus says it's just our mind's operations, judgments, impulses, desires, aversions. That's it, the internal stuff.
Everything else, your body, your health, possessions, reputation, success in the world,
All external.
all external, outside your direct control. Subject to fate, other people, just chance.
And let's pause on that because it feels fundamental. The reason we suffer, according to this, it's not the bad events themselves, is it? It's a mistake we make internally.
Precisely. It's a misclassification. We think we control things we don't. We treat externals like reputation, as if they define our worth.
Which means you're basically handing over your peace of mind to things you can't manage.
You got it. And that leads straight into this idea of assent and impressions. The philosopher's job, maybe the core practice, is constantly checking your mental impressions, testing them.
Like incoming data.
Exactly. Raw data. A flash of lightning, a pang of worry. Epictetus says the impression itself just makes you aware. That part's involuntary. You see the flash. You feel the worry.
Okay.
But then comes the crucial moment. Do you assent? Do you agree with the automatic interpretation?
So the judgment part. Saying that lightning means danger, or this worry means I'm doomed.
Right. That's the voluntary step where we often mess up. We add a value judgment, often a negative one, that wasn't in the raw data. And that's when we get disturbed, or conquered, as Epictetus puts it. The training is about creating a gap there. Pause. Test. Then decide whether to assent.
That need for a gap for testing, it seems vital for just staying sane, for maintaining your integrity. The sources use some really vivid examples like attraction.
Yeah, that's a great one. Anyone can feel attraction. It's a biological blip, an impression. Neutral.
It just is.
It just is. But what you do with it, how you label it internally, whether you decide I must have this, that's the moment of choice. That's the ethical dimension kicking in. It's all about that space between the feeling and the response.
And constantly doing that, testing impressions, it naturally leads to stripping away false values, right? Seeing that only your character is truly good and external things are just stuff, matter in motion.
This is where Marcus Aurelius gets really practical with that technique, sometimes called vilitás, reducing things to their bare physical reality. It's a mental exercise to break through the hype.
He didn't just think about it, he actively visualized it. A fancy meal wasn't gourmet food. It was.
The dead carcass of a fish or pig.
Yep, and a purple robe.
Wool steeped in shellfish blood.
It sounds almost cynical, but the point isn't to be miserable, is it?
Not at all. The point is to see through the pompous descriptions, the value we add. To realize a fancy ring is just metal dug from the ground. It neutralizes the unhealthy attachment. The object is neutral. Our description can be toxic.
It's about objectivity, humility, maybe, but it sounds like incredibly hard work. Constant vigilance. It feels less like a philosophy club and more like a serious, demanding path.
It is a serious path. And Epictetus, well, he had zero time for students who treated it lightly, which brings us to that fascinating bit about religious language.
Yeah, this part really stood out. He uses terms like trumpeting the mysteries. He's calling out students who just learned the jargon.
Exactly. He accused them of showing off the logic tricks without the inner transformation. He said they lacked the priest's proper gear, the right attitude. They compared the terms indifference, assent, but their lives were still ruled by fear about money or what people thought.
You see that today, right? People quoting Stoic stuff online but freaking out over likes.
Totally. Epictetus was saying, look, this is serious business. It's like a sacred right. It demands commitment, real change, not just clever talk.
It's preparation for living differently.
Preparation for action. And that action is all aimed at one thing, virtue.
Okay, so that seriousness, that commitment, it points directly to the big ethical claim. Virtue is the only good. The sources really emphasize this. It's prized above everything else, incomparable.
Right. And that immediately demotes things like wealth, health, status. They become indifference. Seneca, Musonius, Epictetus, they're all aligned on this. It's foolish to think money buys happiness or cures grief. It just doesn't work that way.
Epictetus, coming from slavery, puts it so bluntly. He says not needing wealth is better than having wealth.
He does. He says it's better to die of hunger without fear than live anxious with plenty. It's a radical perspective shift, especially in status-obsessed Rome.
It redefines freedom. Not getting what you want, but not needing externals for your inner peace, which brings us to Seneca.
Ah, yes, the millionaire Stoic.
Exactly. Wait, let's slow down here. This seems like a huge contradiction. How did Seneca, living in luxury, advisor to Nero, reconcile that with this teaching? People must have hammered him on this.
Oh, they did, constantly. And his response, recorded in the sources, is pretty sharp. He didn't deny his wealth. He argued the key difference was mastery.
Mastery.
Yeah. He basically told his critics, look, for me, wealth has a place, it's a tool. For you, it's the highest goal. The crucial thing is, I own my wealth, your wealth owns you.
So his argument was, if he lost it all tomorrow, his core self, his tranquility, wouldn't crumble. He could use it, but wasn't addicted to it or terrified of losing it.
That's the essence of it, using externals wisely versus being consumed by them. And this whole issue, the gap between the perfect detached sage and, well, actual people trying to live this, led the Romans to refine the Greek idea.
They got more realistic, less focused on the unattainable perfect sage.
Much more. They really emphasized the idea of making progress, becoming a proficient, a progressor. Seneca especially talked about this. He saw basically three groups.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have the sages, the theoretical ideal, perfectly virtuous. Maybe nobody actually gets there. Second, the progressors, people who've seen the light, recognize their errors, and are actively working on themselves. That's the target for most people.
And the third group?
The, let's call them the uninquiring. People stuck in unexamined beliefs, just reacting to externals. Living, as Socrates would say, the unexamined life. So the goal for a student of Stoicism was clear. Get into that progressive group and keep pushing. Daily effort.
So the aim is excellence of character built on those four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, moderation. But what I find really useful is how they translated virtue into concrete actions.
Yes, it ties right back to their view of human nature. We are rational and social creatures, born into families, communities.
So a good human isn't just wise in isolation.
Right. A good human acts sociably. If you're constantly unjust or cowardly or can't control your impulses, you're not just failing morally, you're failing at being a functional human being, given our nature.
It makes virtue practical, tested in the real world, with real people. And to build those virtues, they had this unusual take on hardship.
Adversity is training. This is fascinating. We usually see difficulty as bad luck, something to avoid.
Yeah.
Seneca flips it. He argues adversity is almost a compliment, a sign you're strong enough to handle it.
A compliment from who? God, nature.
Yeah, from God or nature or the logos, whatever term you prefer. Seneca uses this powerful analogy of a general. A good general doesn't send rookie troops into the toughest fight. He sends his best, most trusted soldiers.
So challenges are opportunities.
Opportunities to build resilience, patience, courage, virtues you literally cannot develop if life is always easy. Comfort makes you soft.
Which means, counterintuitively, that constant luxury, endless good fortune, that's actually bad luck in Stoic terms.
According to Seneca, yes. It leads to complacency, laziness, taking things for granted. You never get tested, so you never develop moral muscle. True misfortune isn't suffering. It's never getting the chance to overcome suffering and prove your character. You need to be, as he puts it, knocked about and hardened. And this idea of being hardened, of developing virtue, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It immediately connects to our place in the community. The Stoics were clear.
Yeah.
You can't be happy in isolation. It's just against our nature as social beings.
Which connects to that big idea of Stoic cosmopolitanism, seeing ourselves as citizens of the world.
Exactly. As our reason develops, we should naturally expand our sense of belonging from just ourselves and our family outward.
Hierocles had that model, right? The circles of concern.
Yes, a really helpful visual. You're at the center. Your mind, your body. That's the first circle.
Okay.
Then immediate family, parents, siblings, kids. Next circle, extended family. Then neighbors, local tribe or community. Then your country. And finally, the biggest circle, all of humanity.
And the exercise isn't just to recognize these circles, but to actively try and pull them closer.
That's the goal. To mentally draw the outer circles inward. To try and treat, say, a stranger from a distant land with the kind of concern you might naturally show a cousin. It's about extending that rational care outwards.
Epictetus makes this very concrete, doesn't he? By talking about roles. Family roles, job roles, life stages. These aren't just labels. They define how you should act.
Right. They're normative identifications.
Yeah.
They come with built-in duties. And crucially, just having the biological link, like being someone's son, isn't enough for Epictetus.
So, to be a real son, you need to act with filial piety. To be a real brother, you need to be genuinely fraternal, supportive.
Precisely. If you fail in the appropriate virtues, justice, kindness, support, you might be biologically related, but you're failing the role itself. Your character determines if you truly fulfill the identification.
Okay, but this brings up that tricky point, that potential conflict. If Stoicism says focus only on what's mine, my internal state, my choices, how does that fit with being considerate and, frankly, sometimes yielding to others? Isn't my self-interest at odds with being nice?
Ah, the classic question. And Epictetus has a brilliant answer. He redefines self-interest. The benefit you get from acting virtuously, justly, kindly is an internal good, and that outweighs any external thing you might give up.
Can you give an example, like the inheritance dispute?
Perfect example. Say you argue with your brother over some property. You could fight tooth and nail, maybe win the house or the money, the external. But you damage the relationship, create inner turmoil, act unjustly. That's a huge internal cost, the Stoic view. The brother who acts fraternally, maybe even concedes the external thing, has the better of it in the domain of his volition.
Because the internal gain, integrity, peace, acting justly is way more valuable than the house.
Incomparably more valuable. You act rightly towards others, but the ultimate benefit accrues to your own character. It's enlightened self-interest, where the self you care about is your moral core.
That makes sense. And speaking of acting justly in society, we really need to mention Musonius Rufus here, Epictetus' teacher. He had some radical ideas for his time.
Absolutely. Musonius lectured in Rome and was apparently quite famous for his views on equality, especially concerning women.
What did he argue?
He argued, quite simply, that women have the same capacity for reason, the logos, as men. And since reason is the foundation for virtue.
It followed that women have the same natural inclination and ability to become virtuous.
Exactly. Therefore, they could and should study philosophy, train physically, even participate in public life, just like men. This wasn't just a nice thought. It was a logical consequence of core Stoic principles about universal reason.
So, if reason and the capacity for virtue are universal, then things like gender, social class, like Epictetus himself being a slave, those are ultimately irrelevant to one's potential for a good life.
Right. It demands that philosophy be open to everyone. It has to be universal, public, accessible. Otherwise, it undermines itself. And this social dimension shapes how they approached everyday ethics, emotions, relationships.
Okay, so if we're aiming for this constant self-improvement and social duty, we inevitably hit the wall of emotions. How do Stoics deal with things like anger, grief? They're not trying to be robots, are they?
No, definitely not robots. They distinguish between initial involuntary reactions, a flinch, a blush, a sudden jolt of fear, what they called first movements. Those are natural. What they target are the irrational passions.
Passions meaning?
Meaning strong, excessive emotions based on faulty judgments. Think of them like chronic diseases of the mind fueled by mistaken beliefs about what's good or bad. Anger is a big one.
And Seneca had some strong words about anger.
He called it temporary madness, total loss of control. His analogy is terrifying, like being pushed off a building. Once you assent to the angry judgment, I've been deeply wronged and must retaliate, reason is gone. You're just falling destructively.
So again, it's the judgment, not the initial trigger, that causes the meltdown. Which links back to Epictetus on harm, that famous line.
No one will harm you without your consent. You will only be harmed when you think you are harmed. It's tough, but central.
How does that play out? Someone insults you, criticizes your work unfairly. What's the Stoic move?
The move is the pause. Test the impression. First question, is it true? If yes, okay, they've actually done you a favor, pointed out a flaw you can fix. Thanks for the feedback, helps you make progress.
Okay, but what if it's completely false? Just malicious or ignorant?
Then it's their error in judgment. They're the one holding the false belief. The only way their mistaken view actually harms you is if you accept it as harmful. If you let it trigger anger, resentment, then you've essentially agreed to the premise that their words have power over your inner state. You have to refuse assent to that.
That requires incredible discipline. Daily practice. What about grief? That feels deeper than just a faulty judgment about an insult.
It does. And the Stoic approach isn't about not feeling sadness, but about managing it through preparation. The premeditatio malorum, thinking about potential misfortunes in advance. Epictetus is blunt here, too. Everything we love, everyone we love is on loan. Wanting them to be immortal is wanting the impossible.
Seneca's advice to Marcia, who lost her son. He wasn't saying don't be sad, was he?
No, he was saying grief hits hardest when it's unexpected. We see loss happen to others constantly, but we imagine ourselves immune. Seneca insists, contemplate potential loss.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that things can be taken away, not to be morbid, but to be prepared.
So when loss does occur, the judgment isn't, this is unnatural, this shouldn't happen. It's more like, this is part of life, deeply painful, but anticipated. It prevents the shock that fuels overwhelming passion.
Exactly. Preparation inoculates the mind, helps maintain rationality even in sorrow, which allows you to act virtuously even then. And this all comes down to practice, 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 not just reading theories.
Right. The sources are full of practical exercises, especially for dealing with, well, other people, difficult people.
That's arguably the main theme of Marcus Aurelius' meditations. It's basically his personal workbook for dealing with annoying courtiers or incompetent officials. He listed specific reminders for himself.
Like what?
Things like, remember, we're all interconnected. Remember, they're acting out of their own, maybe wrong ideas of good. Remember, their fault is external to your own character. He had about 10 principles.
And the exercise was?
Pick a few that resonate, maybe 2 or 3, and consciously apply them throughout the week when dealing with that person who winds you up. Then observe how your own feelings and reactions change. It's active self-experimentation.
Applied psychology, really. And this wasn't just for students. The sources show high-ranking Romans trying to live this out.
Definitely. Men like Arrian, who wrote down Epictetus' teachings, and Rusticus, Marcus Aurelius' tutor, they weren't just academics.
They were pulled into public life, right?
Yeah.
Emperors apparently refused to let them be mere pen and ink philosophers.
That's the quote. Dragged from their books to the general's tent, the governor's office, the speaker's platform, Arrian-governed provinces commanded troops. Rusticus was urban prefect of Rome.
So they had to live the justice, courage, moderation they studied under immense pressure.
It drives home the point. Stoicism, for the Romans, demanded engagement. The development of the self was inseparable from service to the community. #outro.
So we've traced quite a path today, just following the sources you brought, from that intense internal focus on judgment and control,
Right, the foundation.
through the idea of lifelong progress, not perfection,
The progressor's journey.
and landing squarely on this unavoidable social duty that comes with being a rational, social human being.
Yeah, the synthesis really is that the rational self is a social self. Developing your virtue isn't a private hobby. It happens through interaction, through fulfilling your roles, through engaging with those circles of concern. The highest happiness is virtuous action in the world.
And it requires constant work. Which brings us back to Seneca and that line about time. It takes an entire lifetime to learn how to live. It's not a weekend workshop.
No. And his warning is so potent, maybe more now than ever. The biggest obstacle, expectation. Specifically, expecting you have plenty of time tomorrow, which makes you waste today.
Postponing the real work.
Exactly. Delaying the essential task.
So the final thought we want to leave you with, drawing from all this material from Seneca's urgency, is this. If learning to live well, virtuously, truly is a lifetime's task, what specific steps, however small, do you need to take today, right now, to stop wasting time and actually divert yourself to this one essential job?